like to start with a Yiddish folk tale that I've shortened a bit, but has a powerful message. Once upon a time in a small village, or once upon a time in Elul, although this time it's in the wintertime, it's very cold out. And this poor man is living in a one-room hut with his wife, 6 children, and I think his mother too. And no one is getting along. Everyone is upset and yelling and angry. And so he goes to his rabbi and he says, "Rabbi, what am I going to do?" The rabbi is sympathetic. He said, "Do you have any animals?" And the man said, "Yes, I have some animals." And so the rabbi said, "Well, why don't you take some of the chickens, maybe some geese, move them into the hut with you." And so the man does just that, but the situation doesn't improve. It's getting worse. And so he goes back to the rabbi, and then the rabbi said, "Well, how about a cow? Do you have a cow? Why don't you move a cow in?" And so the guy goes back and decides to move the cow into this little hut with his family. And it's even worse. So he's exasperated. He goes to the rabbi. He said, "I don't know what I'm going to do." And the rabbi said, "Remove all of the animals." And so he removed the animals. And suddenly, after doing that, peace returned to the family. People were getting along. Everything was quiet. Peace had returned. And so he went back to the rabbi and he thanked him for restoring joy in their hearts. So the message here is that sometimes all it takes to see our blessings is to do some rearranging, clearing out what no longer serves us. It's time to turn towards one another, to think about in our own life, are there cows, are there chickens in our house, so to speak, in our minds, things that don't serve us anymore, that we have to get rid of, to rearrange, to begin this task of shaping our perspective and to transform our homes into a sanctuary. The situation really calls us to be present with ourselves without running away, starting with simply experiencing our reality this moment, with appreciating more deeply what we do have, basic gifts like health, 4 walls, and family. We need to remember, because we are really, really in a moment of change. I mean, a year ago, did you ever think that we would be sitting here this year for Elul in a Zoom room talking instead of being together face to face? One of my favorite books that I always open up this time of year is by the late Rabbi Alan Liu of blessed memory, who called himself a Zen rabbi. And I'm going to share the cover of this book with you because it really, really says a lot. And I hope you can see it when I hold it up. Do you see it?
Yes.
Okay. This is real. And you are completely unprepared. This is real and you are completely unprepared. It's the Days of Awe is a journey of transformation. This year in particular, when I see this cover, wow, it really says a lot to me, something that I can relate to, and I think something that all of us can relate to, that our world and our lives feel more broken than ever. I mean, did you ever imagine that we would be living through a worldwide pandemic, economic devastation, political crisis, and more? I mean, we still haven't processed all that we have lost, and yet at this time of year, we are here to look for a glimmer of hope, of healing and rebuilding at the high holy days. If I go around each of these Zoom rooms right now, I'm sure there are things you would tell me that you're missing right now, missing being together, singing together, being in the synagogue together, just doing regular activities, going to the beach, walking around, hugging people, not wearing masks. I mean, we are definitely in a moment of change. And so right now, this 30-day period in the month of Elul is really about thinking, where we are, who we are, and really who we are meant to be. And this is what the rabbis declared, that the entire month preceding Rosh Hashanah would really be for soul preparation and spiritual accounting. It's also a time to heal relationships, to offer overdue apologies, and to repair the damage that we have caused to others. Elul is about really getting back into the right relationship with people, with other people, with ourselves, with God, and also with our community. We move from feeling broken to feeling whole again. Sometimes I think a piece of us gets lost in the Elul shift and we are left to mourn what once was. And other times the change really opens a window, letting in the air we need to breathe. Just like in that folk story I told you, they needed to let go of so much in order to restore peace and harmony and to breathe again. Change is not easy, and we are certainly living in change. How we respond to change, it's really a personal choice. It's always in our hands. There's this AA serenity prayer that I'm thinking of right now. It asks God for wisdom to know the difference between things we can change and things that we cannot change. And so tonight, this is the transformation that I hope we begin, to move from feeling unprepared, like the title of that book said, to feeling unprepared, to really feeling ready. I pray that good awaits all of us at Elul, as Elul turns this new page, that it brings us closer to God, and we find new meaning as we continue to write our story here on earth. So the first thing, if you're joining me, the first thing to do is to say, really, I am ready. When Abraham was called by God, he answered with just one word, hineni, which meant not only I am here, but I am ready. Whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do it. And that's exactly what Abraham did do. In English, then, the words are simply, I am ready, said 3 times to symbolize the readiness of the body, the mind, and the soul. Ready for what? Ready to do the good and the beautiful. Part of Elul is hearing the shofar every day except on Shabbat. And we do this for the entire month. If you don't have a shofar at home to blow, you can always just watch it on a video. I'm going to share a video right now. In fact, last week, I saw the other rabbi on Kauai. I'm the Reform rabbi, and then Rabbi Michol is with Chabad. And last week, to celebrate the beginning of Elul, he took his shofar to Menehune Fish Pond in Lahui, here on Kauai, and to blow the shofar to welcome in Elul. And I thought I would just share this with you real quick. And as you hear this, as you hear the shofar, I hope that it calls you to really awaken and to create a mood of thoughtfulness and personal accounting. The shofar, it calls us to search your ways, return to teshuvah, and to examine your souls. And so right now, I'm going to share my screen. Let's see, it'll just be a second here. Okay, here we go. Oh, just a second. Were you all able to hear that? No? You could not hear it. Okay, just a second. I think I did the wrong thing.
Rob,
Rabbi Ken, you are so good at this.
I could see it more than I could hear.
It's only my second time. Okay, just a second here.
guys.
Okay, so we all heard. We did. Okay, great. Go back to my notes here. So think about this. Each of us is a shofar, a vessel for noise making. You need to listen for your authentic voice, to tell your truths, admit to your mistakes, name your longings, and be vulnerable. Our rawness is our power, and the sound is our humanity. This month, we reacquaint ourselves with our internal shofar and its unique call. We reclaim ourselves and prepare to stand before the open gates and begin the year anew and plan how we'll straighten the bend in the road ahead. And that road really needs to be straightened. For a moment now, I'd like to just have us close our eyes as I read a short reflection on Elul. It's a poem by Rabbi Patty Haskell to set our mood for tonight. And here it goes. Elul, late summer month, leading into the holiest of days, time of reflection, time of return, time of repentance. An invitation to open your heart and to feel into your own depths, searching for sweetness, searching for tenderness, searching for reunion with your glorious Creator who loves your very being. Open and be. The poem I just read, it really talks about our reunion with God and teshuvah, a Hebrew word, teshuvah, that we struggle to translate. We call it repentance, we call it return, and we call it a turning. I'm going to share another slide here with you. Just be a second. Okay. This is from the book that I read at the very beginning or told you about. This is real and you are completely unprepared. We spend most of our lives, I think, in this strange dance, pushing forward to get back home. Teshuvah, turning, return, repentance, is the central gesture of the high holiday season. It is a circular motion. If you are moving along the circumference of a circle, it might seem at first as if the starting point is getting farther and farther away, but actually it is also getting closer and closer. The calendar year is such a circle. On Rosh Hashanah, a new year begins, and every day is one day farther from the starting point, but every day is also a return, a drawing closer to the completion of the cycle. So if you're moving along the circumference of a circle, it might seem, at first as if the starting point is getting farther and farther away, but as you move around, it's getting closer and closer. So we can really think of teshuvah as this healing power of the journey we make through life. How powerful is repentance, for it brings man closer, really, to the presence of God. The passage of time, another year, it heals us, it carries us toward home, it makes us whole again. It gives us a sense of what is important in life. Each year, we start the journey again. We go away from our transgressions, but then realize that the only way forward is to face them. I was thinking about last week's harshas, shoftim, and I wanted to just read something from that. When the troops were being called into battle, the officials addressed the troops as follows. Is there anyone who has built a new house, but who has not dedicated it? Let him go back to his home lest he die in battle and another dedicate it? Is there anyone who has planted a vineyard but has never harvested it? Let him go back to his home, lest he die in battle and another harvest it. Is there anyone who has paid the bride price for a wife, but who's not yet married her? Let him go back to his home, lest he die in battle and another marry her. The point here being that those with unfinished business really could be a danger to themselves and to others. At this time of year, when we contemplate our lives, this serves really as an invitation to consider what unfinished business all of us have. Elul is really then about, it's a month to really get your life in order, to prepare for the move to the new year, which will have new hopes and promises and new unfinished businesses. Elul contains a paradox. We are tasked with finishing the old year while at the same time excited for the new one. So it's important to stay present to the task at hand so we can start the new year with greater momentum and excitement. Torah does not really describe Elul with any significance. Rabbinic scholars of the past had to do what I call liturgical gymnastics to find references to it. They concluded that it's not just the name of a month, but it's not just the name of a month, but it's also an acronym with verses that hint to it. For example, there's Song of Songs, which contains a famous verse that you will see it. Ani Dodi. Well, let me just show it to you real quick here, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Just be a second, we'll do another screen share. Here we go. Ani ladodi li. I am for my beloved, and my beloved is for me. So you can see the first letters, they spell out Elul, Aleph, Lamed, Vav, Lamed. They concluded that the deep meaning of the month was to restore balance between people and God, between people and their inner voice of conscience, between people and their ability to feel love, shame, guilt, but always balanced and coming at the right time and to serve the right purpose. So our attitude toward God should be that God's love for us is infinite, that any separation from God is an act of will on our part, not on God's part. Guilt is a ruse, a trick to keep us from investing our energy in self-improvement, rationalizing that if I feel guilty, I'm suffering. I'm atoning, and that is enough. To dethrone the tyrant of guilt, we must do our hardest job in the world. When I was going to seminary in New York, the seminary was started by Hasidic rabbi, modern Hasidic rabbi, the late Rabbi Joseph Gelberman of blessed memory. And he had a lot of guilt and a lot of forgiveness he had to do in his life too. Most of his family died in the Holocaust, his wife, his daughter, most of his brothers and sisters. He came to New York trying to accept a job as a rabbi, got here. The job did not materialize, so he couldn't get his wife and daughter out of Germany. And then he joined the military, hoping that would help, and it didn't. And most of the family ended up dying at Auschwitz. But he said here, we must face our own heart of darkness. We must forgive ourselves and fall in love with ourselves all over again. Because when we love ourselves, we will behave ourselves. The next slide I was going to show here is another example. Just be a second here, I'll pull it up. And again, you see Elul written. Jews were to observe Purim as days of feasting and joy, sending gifts to one another and gifts to the poor. So again, this shows another connection to Elul. This verse creates an ethical dimension that we must look inward and reflect on our personal behavior. Did I do enough? Our tradition teaches that we start with ourselves, but not stop there. Acts of kindness, supporting each other, helping the most vulnerable is a reminder of the core of Elul. As Rabbi Laura Geller teaches, the high holy days only work when you do your own spiritual work. I promise you the degree to which the high holy days are meaningful for you will be in direct proportion to the amount of time that you set aside to do personal reflection and accounting. So what are some things to do? Well, there's that spiritual accounting.
Can you hear me, Rabbi?
Cheshbon hanafesh, which is usually translated as the accounting of the soul. You know, Hebrew is this interesting language that has both a holy life and a secular life. And for a Jew, the interaction of the holy and the ordinary is often the place where the Torah comes to life. Cheshbon has many meanings, but the one you will most often hear on the street of Israel is the bill and counting. You know, I ask for a cheshbon when I am done with my meal. It lists what my party has ordered, the cost of each item, and a total. Then nefesh is often another word with sacred and secular meanings. The ha in front means the. So in the prayer book, nefesh, it's usually translated as soul, although in the Bible it is often more correctly translated as life. So perhaps when we talk about the month of Elul as a time of cheshbon nefesh, we can expand a bit from the notion of an accounting of the soul and ask, what does my life add up to right now? And to look forward to the ways in which the year that will soon begin can be different. I have one more slide I want to share here real quick with you that I think you'll find interesting. Another of my favorite authors is Rabbi Harold Kushner, who I'm sure many of you have read. And this is from his book, How Good Do We Have to Be? First one, but at the end, if we are brave enough to love, if we are strong enough to forgive, if we are generous enough to rejoice in another's happiness, and if we are wise enough to know that there is enough love to go around for us all, then we can achieve a fulfillment that no other living creature will ever know. We can re-enter paradise. And then he writes this very interesting thing about the heroes of the Bible, that they were not perfect people. Their great deeds of faith overshadowed their mistakes, but they all made their share of mistakes because they were human beings, not mythical models of perfection. And he goes on to talk about Abraham, Moshe, David, and says really at the end that the person who claims to be perfect without flaw or defect is claiming to be like God. But the person who knows his flaws all too well is open to God's love and God's presence because he realizes he is not God. So in the words of authors Kurtz and Ketchum, imperfection is the wound that lets God in. Imperfection is the wound that lets God in. I like that quote. And so what I wanted to do next was to give you a link to some study questions I have that I think will help to set the mood for Elul. And I'm going to
Before you do that, sorry, Rabbi Rob, is this a good
share again
moment
here.
to pause to see if there are any questions anyone has or comments? I don't know if you can hear me. I guess not. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Hang on.
I cannot hear, but I can hear, and he's in the next room over.
Yeah. Do you
so
mind?
I
Is this a good moment? Just if anybody, I'm wondering if everybody has, because there are a lot of wonderful
Let me just
information that
mention to him.
was just if there's a moment for a pause.
Okay.
See if anybody- Okay. Okay. If anybody has any questions, I'm going to unmute everybody. And if anybody has a question for Rabbi Rob, because again, there's a lot of wonderful, very powerful information to share. I'm going to ask everybody to unmute if you want, if you have a question or comment, or you can use the chat box, of course, as well. Let's see. Whoops. That's that way. So if anybody has any questions, this is your comments. This is your moment before we go finish. We go on. Oh, I guess no one has any questions or comments because I'm asking people to unmute, and they are staying muted. Rabbi Rob, while I'm doing that, sorry, go ahead. You have a question?
Go ahead.
No question, only a comment. Good
Sure.
to see everybody. All my friends, all the ones I don't know. Hi, guys. Love
Okay,
you.
Good to see you too.
Okay, it's just a little mushy from me.
That's okay. Rabbi Rob, I had a question because, sorry, does someone have a question? Sorry, Jeff?
Yeah, this is Jeff.
Please.
So I wanted to say that the person who just spoke, that's Carol Paskaya, and I wanted to clarify, Ken, because Carol and I are the co-presidents of the Jewish
Oh, I'm
Community.
terribly sorry. Okay.
Hey, Ken. Peace and love.
Oh, thank you, Carol. All right. Well,
Okay.
you have you're president of a wonderful community, so you are very blessed. And thank you
Amen.
for
Amen.
stepping up, because lay leadership is very
Mahalo.
important.
You know,
Yes.
thank you in every language of the world.
Thank you.
I wanted
Thank
to also
you.
clarify, Rabbi Ken,
Yep.
that Rob is an independent rabbi on Kauai and a member of the Jewish community. The Jewish community of Kauai itself does not have a rabbi.
Oh, okay. I'm stand corrected. I'm so sorry. Next time we're going to do a pre-interview.
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you, Rabbi Ken, so much for hosting. The story.
Okay, I'm just happy, that's all.
Okay.
And we're so grateful to be
Hi, Laura.
sister communities with you.
Well, thank you. And it's great to be
Hi,
connected
Julia.
across the islands is a wonderful thing. But Rabbi Rob, before you continue, if anybody has any questions or comments, please. But, we focus on, what is not working in our lives, in a sense, really around the High Holy Days. But do you think there's a place for also acknowledging what is working, or the positives in each of us that we've exemplified over the past year as well? I don't know if you heard that. He's pondering.
Can you say that again?
All right. Well, obviously, High Holy Days is traditionally a time for emphasizing what's not working in our lives, behaviors and interactions and dynamics that are really not healthy for ourselves or others, or for God, for that matter. But do you think there's a place to somehow acknowledge what is working?
I think that's a really good point. Now, Jeff, I was wondering if you could just share the link to this website page so everyone has it. If you could put that in, and I can just go over it real quick, because that's a good point. There are a lot of good things happening in our lives as well, and it's always remembering what those were. Like in that folktale at the very beginning, they had so many blessings, but they didn't realize all the blessings they had until they started clearing all of this other stuff out. And so I had a few questions and or thoughts, about doing a spiritual accounting, and to talk about, who have you been over the last year, and what are the things you feel great about, and really the things that you're proud about, to remember that, things you've done with your family, with community, and then also balance with things that you're not feeling so great about, maybe where you missed the mark, and maybe you need to ask someone for forgiveness. if it's something you've done wrong to someone else, then you need to talk to that person. This is an opportunity to do that, but also to really take accounting of where you are right now and all of the good that's in your life. And that's really, I think, important, especially with the fact that so much has changed in the last few months for all of us. I mean, we just didn't see any of this happening. After High Holy Days last year, October and November, I went around the world, and I was in synagogues in London and Africa, Asia and Australia, and the world is just fine, and the world is normal. And so I just think back to that just a few months ago, and and how much all of that has changed. And so I think that we really need to stay strong as a community and to be together as much as we can. And this is one way that we can keep those connections going, is with programs like this and with Zoom, so that we don't lose this important connection to our community. I think that for your reflection too, it's if you can go out and take a walk just to feel the presence of God, or if you can go for a swim or something, just that gives you a point of reflection, just to think through everything. This is a perfect opportunity to do that. A lot of people will read Psalm 27 every day, and that's a fairly new tradition. I think it goes back maybe 200 years. But there's a rabbi who wrote a really brilliant book on this. It's through CCAR. It's available on Amazon, and I have it listed here, Opening Your Heart with Psalm 27. If you don't want to read the book, she also did a video of it. It's really, really good, and so I would recommend that. And then I also gave a few websites here that are really helpful, like the Shofar Project, Reform Reflections with URJ, Positive Jewish Living, 40 Days of Teshuvah. It looks like that link isn't working right now, but what these are, like 40 Days of Teshuvah, this website sends me an email each day with a different thought. And with like Positive Jewish Living, this is a Facebook page, and I'll just click this real quick. You can still see this. And here's what they say today: one who cannot forgive others breaks the bridge over which one must pass, for every one of us has the need to be forgiven. So they do this different thought every day. And so there's really a lot of, I'm trying to get back to my other screen. Can't at the moment, let's see. So there's really a lot of good resources there that can be helpful to you. And this Shofar Project too. I'll just click that. That's, if you haven't looked at that, that might be something interesting too. And it's also sponsored by the Union of Reform Judaism. So many things that you can do online, and some of you may have some other ideas too. You can also read books like the ones I mentioned. I have them here, and also study each week's parsha, because each will have a subtle rhyme to the process of awakening to which the month of Elul has called us. And then I'm also part of a group that will be doing an Inter-Island Chevra Kadisha meeting on Sunday, October 4th at 3 p.m. on Zoom. There's an RSVP if you'd like to participate, to get the Zoom invite, to learn more about our Jewish rituals and traditions around end-of-life issues. But I was curious, like, for all of you, are there things that this was just sort of a starting list, but are there things that you do this time of year, ideas that maybe you can share with everyone of how you make this month so important to you?
I'm inviting people to unmute, so hopefully that'll help. So any ways that any of you can add to the list of what we can do? Or text me. Okay, I guess your list was very complete.
Nobody's adding anything. Well, maybe
Yeah,
then
please.
this is a start, because I said, this is where we're starting our personal transformation. So maybe what I wanted to do is just to give you some ideas tonight, things to start thinking about, things, how to use this time well, and to really take advantage of everything the High Holy Days has to offer. And so I really encourage you to, think about these questions I've mentioned. Jeff, did you share the link with everyone?
Yes.
You did. Okay, great. And then these are just a few of the many resources that are really out there to be of help. So no more questions.
Anybody?
No questions.
I guess you said it
Okay.
all.
Has it been helpful? I hope maybe
Yeah.
you've gained some thoughts and ideas from tonight. Alice, hi.
Oh, please, yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for mentioning the Inter-Island Chaver Kedusha. And part of our intention is really to see a continuum of care. So one of the focuses that I really hope that we can bring to our Jewish communities is really how we can really address the needs of our communities, not just at the end of life, but when people are sick, and also when people are mourning, so that we really have what we call, the Hineni. Many communities have a Hineni committee or a Chesed committee. But how do we create sort of a structure for our communities to really be of service to our communities across the islands and also within our own islands? And I think Elul is a really important time to really think, how are we participating in that mitzvah, and how are we being available to each other as a community?
Okay. So to close my part, I'd like to say, may your month of Elul be meaningful and sweet. Lashana Tova.
Well, Yashikah, thank you, Rabbi Rob, for those beautiful words. And I don't want to speak for everyone else, but I certainly feel more prepared, or more stimulated in terms of ideas and ways to really prepare for a meaningful experience during the days of awe. So thank you for that. And I want to also add that my thanks also to Jeff and to Carol. You really have a beautiful community on Kauai. And it's, as Alice said, it's not only a time to think about just ourselves individually, but as a community, and not only as a community on each of our islands, but also a community that is holy, that is really connected, even across the bits of ocean that we have between us. So thank you very much. Does anybody have any final or comments or anything they wanted to ask before I make an announcement for next week's talk story?
I'd just say that we're looking forward to participating in High Holidays with Temple Emmanuel.
Oh, well, we thank you. And we are efforting to have the rollout of all the information from Salichot to Simchat Torah sometime over this coming weekend. So look for that.
We will also have by Aryeh Azriel, who you probably know, and he will be joining. And so we will welcome you to join us.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, please. Please, I'd love that.
With the Jewish community of Kauai.
Yeah, thank you. And next week, we have another talk story session with Rabbi Itchel Krasnjansky of Chabad of Hawaii. That's at noon next Wednesday, September, I want to say, I believe it's the 3rd or 2nd or 3rd, but it's next Wednesday at noon. He'll talk from his perspective on, again, what Rabbi Rob has so beautifully spoken about tonight, which is going beneath the surface of the themes and messages of the time of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So thank you one and all. And if anyone with a question or comment, this is, again, your last final call. Otherwise, you can enjoy the recording, and Rabbi Rob and Jeff and Carol, we'll send it out to you tomorrow, and also post it on our email that will go out tomorrow as well, so people can access the broadcast. So people who couldn't make it tonight can do so. So with that, everybody, I wish you Erev Tov, a very good evening. Be well, and may we all prepare ourselves individually and collectively for the most meaningful and transformative Yamim Noraim, the days of awe that are coming ever closer. So Rabbi Rob, I don't know about you, but I have a sermon to write. So thank you, Yashikoa. And thank you one and all for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. All right. Stay well, everybody. Wear your mask, distance, everything, please.
Nice seeing all of you.
You got it. Thank you, Rabbi Rob. All right. Thank you, everyone.